Hi, welcome to Teach With Me. I'm Miss Jen. Today we are going to be talking about and making a picture of the Mayflower and doing the writing that goes along with it. I'm going to show you how I incorporated that into our lesson, how the kids did the writing and how to display it. All right, so let's get started. So what you're going to need for this is you're going to need a piece of white printing paper for the Mayflower. You're going to need a writing paper. This one I did on construction paper just to make it bigger, but we're going to do it on printing paper. You're going to need a piece of paper for them to do their writing on, and that can look like this, or it can look like this, and it can cover the entire base of your paper, and that's up to you how you want to display it. And then you're going to need a paper mate flare marker. Now it's a felt tip pen, and these are the best ones to do in my opinion for these directed draws. All right, so we're going to do a directed draw. A directed draw, in case you've not ever seen a directed draw, is a super useful lesson, because I'm going to let you see my face while I talk about this. Hold on. Because the kids are using, they're having to listen for directions, they're having to follow what you're saying, they're having to understand directional sense on your paper. You know, if you say go all the way to the edge of your paper, to the left, go all the way to the right, all the way to the top, whatever it might be, give some directional sense practice. And it is a really good way for the boys and girls to practice their penmanship. There's just a lot of benefits to using directed draw, and we're going to be doing more directed draw in our upcoming lessons. All right, so when we do the directed draw, I first tell the kids that we are going to make the waves, and the waves are wavy lines that go all the way from one side of the paper to the other. And one thing I make sure to tell them is they can't have their waves too close to the top, because then they won't have room to draw the boat's sails. So we're going to start right here. I'll tell them to start all the way on the corner of your paper, and you're going to go all the way from one end of the other, one side of the paper, all the way to the other side. Then I tell them, now I forgot to tell you, you need to make sure that you tell the kids you're going horizontally, not vertically. And I do teach them that vocabulary each and every time we do this. I don't say landscape, I don't say portrait, I don't say hot dog, I don't say hamburger. I use the correct terminology, and this is horizontal. Okay, the next thing I do is I tell the kids we're going to draw two slanted lines, and the slanted lines are going to be on either side of the paper along the edges. And if we put them too close together, then we're going to have a really tiny boat. So I do this on my document camera and show them before they're allowed to do it. So what I'll do is I'll say, all right, just watching, no drawing right now. And they're going to go like this. And I'll tell them, oops, hold on, let me start. I'll tell them I want you to start at the very top of the side of the paper and come down and touch the water. And the line is slanted, it's not straight up and down. And then I'll have them do that on the same side. Now you'll notice I did not do that exactly on this one. I didn't have them start on the edges, but I'm using a smaller paper. If you use a white construction paper, that's bigger. And so I won't have them do it all the way to the end of the paper. But I'm going to do that on this one because this is a smaller paper. And now I'm going to have them draw another slanted line that starts along the edge of the paper and comes down and touches the water, and then they stop. And then I'm going to tell them to draw a line that goes all the way across and touches the other line we drew. And then I'm going to have them do another line right here, and I'll tell them this is where we're going to write the word Mayflower. So let me show you my sample again. We'll do that part at the end, where we write the word Mayflower. Now I forgot to mention something. before you draw the boat, since I do this part whole group, you need to look and make sure that they have not drawn their waves way up here, because if they do, they won't be able to draw their boat. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw this part. And I call this the captain's quarters, and you'll notice that there's 2 circles here. That's going to be for the windows. So I'm going to tell them, go over to the right side of your paper. We're going to make a small little line that goes up. It goes all the way to the end of the boat, and then it comes straight down. It's a vertical line. And then inside that rectangle, they're going to make 2 circles. Now, because I don't want them to color this in, sometimes I'll tell them to go ahead and color. I don't want them to color it in with the marker. I'll tell them to color it in with the yellow crayon right then and there, because we usually do our coloring afterwards, but I don't want them to color it in with the marker, and they do that sometimes. All right, so now the next part of this is to make the 3 sails. So we talk about, let me show you where they're going to be. You're going to have one in the center, one on the front of the boat, and one on the back of the boat. And we talk about how the wind has to all be going the same direction. I'll show them my sample, and we'll talk about what would happen if this was going blowing this way, and this wind was blowing this way. Would the boat even move if the wind is pushing it? And they'll say no. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to show them how to make the sails so that they're all blowing the same direction. But first we have to draw the masts. So the very first thing is we're going to draw on top of that little rectangle with the windows. We're going to draw a little pole. And if the kids seem to be doing okay with the drawing, I'll have them make it a little thicker. But otherwise, I mean, they don't have to. You can simply do it like with just a straight line down. All right, so I'll tell them, all right, we're going to make a small one here. We're going to make a small one over here on the side. And we're going to make one that's just a little bigger here, but not too much bigger, because we want our sail to be bigger. Because the middle sail is the biggest one. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I show them how to make the sails. The first thing I do is I say, all right, go to the top of your pole, your mast, and you're going to draw a line across, and it looks like the letter T. And then I'll say, okay, let's go to the middle one, and we're going to make a letter T. We're going to make this one a little bit bigger because that's our biggest sail. And then we're going to come over here to the left side, and we're going to draw another letter T. All right, now to make our sails, what we're going to do is we are going to come to the end of our sail here, and we're going to make a letter C. And we're going to do it here on the end, make a letter C, and over here a letter C, a letter C, a letter C, and a letter C. Now, the next thing I tell them is just to connect the sails. Connect those 2 letter C's together with a line going all the way across. All right, now that's it with the drawing. This is pretty easy. I will have them write the word Mayflower, and I'll spell it for them as they do it. All right, everyone, make an M, and I'll also do it with them on the document camera or on the whiteboard or on the easel or whatever it is I'm using to display. I'm going to tell them A, Y, F, L, O, W, E, R. Then we're going to color it all together, and I'm going to show you something. On here, you'll notice that my sky is a different color than my water. And normally what I do is the kids have 2 different colors of blue, and they will use one for the sky, one for the water. It doesn't matter to me which one is which, as long as they're different. But if we don't have 2 shades of blue, if you just have their 8-piece, then they can use a shading crayon. And if you recall, and I forgot to bring my shading crayons over here. I'm going to go grab it real quick. Let me pause you. Now you're unpaused, and I magically have my shading crayon. A shading crayon is simply a broken crayon that has no wrapper. And we use these horizontally, and I'm going to show you. So if you only have one color, you should always have a little box where you keep the broken colors of the same one. So for example, all my blues go in a blue basket, all my greens go in a green basket. I have to take those wrappers off. But that way, when I need a shading crayon, they're already sorted and organized. But I'm going to use mine for my water. And so for this one, I would just do it, I would shade it. You can do this for the sky if you want to instead. It doesn't really matter as long as they're different so that you can differentiate the water from the sky. And then you can put little lines to mimic waves. Now, using the same exact color for the sky, but not as a shading crayon, not doing it horizontally, will give you a completely different look. So, you see, it's completely different. So I'm not going to do the whole thing, but you get the idea. All right, so I have them color the ships brown, and I say our ship is, because this is a historical sort of lesson we're doing, and so I tell them the ship is brown, I don't want it any other color, and you have to color in all of the white spaces except the sails need to remain white. I did forget to mention you do need to put their name on it. If you're going to display it like this, their name can be at the bottom of their writing. However, their name should be on the back of their writing because, or at the bottom, depending on how you like it, because sometimes you'll have a lot of these and you need to match it to the writing and you might get mixed up. I'm sure you all know that part. Okay, now let me talk about the writing. Notice I did it this way, but you could have a writing paper that looks like this, that covers the entire thing, and that's completely fine too. Now, I've mentioned before that I always include writing wherever I can with their work. By this time, you should already have taught about Thanksgiving. And what I will have done is I will have put a bunch of sentences on the board or on the overhead or on the document camera, whatever it is you're using. In this case, I did it on sentence strips. So the writing I typically do in small group. The directed draw I usually did whole group. So this one, I would have the kids copy the same first sentence. Every student would copy the same first sentence, and then from my other choices that I had written, sorry my face got in the way, they would choose the other sentence that they would have. So some of the ideas: Squanto taught the Pilgrims how to hunt and farm. The Mayflower had 102 passengers, and it had 30 sailors as well. The Pilgrims wanted to worship God freely. That's why they came. Many of the passengers died during the first winter. The voyage took 66 days. The Mayflower left in 1620. Now, the sentence I typically had the kids do first was the Mayflower landed in Plymouth, in Massachusetts. I didn't write that, in 1620, period. So every student would copy this sentence from the board or whatever it is I had. Sometimes I would write it on a sentence strip and put it in front of them so that they could copy it. Being able to copy from a board or from looking at something else and transferring it to your paper is a huge skill. It's very important that kids can do that. And then the students would choose their second sentence. And the entire time, since I'm doing this in small group, I'm working with them on finger spacing. I'm working with them on letter formation, on uppercase letters when they go, on punctuation. Now, some kids might not be able to do this at the beginning. And so what I do is I would trace it for them. I would write it in yellow, and then they would trace over the words so that they have something, they have a frame to copy. Okay, so this is my Mayflower Directed Draw and Writing. I hope you found this useful. Sorry for all the wires. If you did, please like, subscribe, and share. And I forgot to show you, I always wear a teacher shirt and I never show you. So this one says, most definitely not all in a row. So this is my teacher shirt for today.